different circles. We'll talk about, this is kind of what I'll go into some detail of some of these. So obviously primary and high school friends were really important, his work friends. He has lots of friends actually that he made through his sister Millie, his friends through his dad, his lawyer friends, the gang, which are a group of people with disability really that he's known since he was a baby. And then I guess probably these friends through me, that, you know, our family friends, neighbours, friends from my work, etc. And some emerging friends. And the reason that I would put those there is a bit like Cherie was saying, we are always looking for opportunities to bring that, you know, slightly outer circle in a bit closer. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And the people we're actually trying to hold on to. So the people who he's already met, but we're trying to kind of keep those relationships and go deeper if we can. And as I said, he's just moved into his own home, so he has a flatmate, Alyssa, and we've been working really intentionally at how he can become known by his neighbours. So when we had his house warming recently, we letterboxed all of his neighbours. Only 2 came, you know, kind of dropped in. But when he locked himself out of his unit, he went to one of those neighbours and kind of stayed there and called us from there. So he was in a comfortable spot while we kind of came and got him a key. So that's our family, you know, and I think, I guess, his sense of being loved started there. So I don't ever take that for granted, his relationships with cousins, and that you can't ever take those relations. There's still opportunities, I guess, to go deeper in that extended family. These were his primary school friends. And look, it is a matter of pride to me that at his 21st, he had about 17 of those primary school friends, kids who'd known him since he was 5, at his 21st. And that's because we worked hard at staying in touch with them. So, as well as Harriet and Rachel, who you heard, he's very, very close to this boy Yanni and Evania, who are actually twins, and a number of other, they're kind of the inner core, if you like, who of that friendship group. His high school friends, this is photos of his 21st, and again he had, I think, close to 30 of his high school friends at his 21st, and that was a miracle, and I'll tell the story later. That one up the top was one taken with the silly, you know, cutouts, as one taken just a couple of weeks ago at the Brisbane Ekka with his friend Joey. The youth group and Frisbee friends. His work friends. So one of the things about where he works at MDA is because there's how many language groups that are part of this kind of workforce, the fact that Sean's speech is very difficult to understand has not been such a barrier, because they are very used to working to understand people whose English is not very good. So that's actually been an enormous bonus for us. But he has really you know, very, very deep relationships with a number of these people. His convention centre friends, and again, so we're looking, so Damo is the guy in the kind of check shirt up the top that's at Sean's housewarming party. That was kind of the first opportunity we had to kind of invite people from the convention. So he has kind of lunch dates and goes to parties and things with them that are hosted by the convention centre, but that was an opportunity for us to kind of invite someone who we knew he had a connection with into his home. I often think when people say, let's not burden the siblings, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that. I don't think that Sean is a burden, and I have an expectation that's really ordinary for people to make friends through their siblings. So Sean was always included in Millie's circle, not at every single social occasion, not at all. But when Sean was kind of at that age where he was kind of going out, he was invited to university balls with them. He went to all of her friends' kind of 18th and 21st. He, you know, kind of went to the housewarming parties. He went to dinners, and I just think they've been an enormous sense of enrichment for him, and they love and adore him. So this was when, at his 18th, Millie was actually living overseas for 6 months, and these were, all of her friends who still came to his 18th birthday, even though Millie hadn't been around for the last 5 months. And when we had the opportunity to travel to London last year, he was kind of in his element, kind of drinking in the London pubs and other kind of socialising with all his girlfriends again. So his dad, he did work experience in his dad's kind of legal office, but decided that really wasn't the job for him, but he still does quite like to go in on a Friday lunch after work, because he knows that they often have beer on a Friday afternoon. So, he does that on the off weeks to the youth group, because he's very strict that he doesn't drink before he goes to youth group. And these are boxing friends, though actually they're mostly all lawyers apart from Jeff Horn, who is actually a boxer. And he's always had this kind of just a small group of friends with disabilities. So he went to kind of a regular school, but these were the sons and daughters of people who we met when, Sean was little, who we've stayed in contact with and who are really good friends. Though I would say he probably requires more support to maintain those relationships, because often there's miscommunication when you have, people who, where they're struggling as well with kind of communication and relationships. They're probably the relationships we have sometimes most drama, whereas where the kids have, are more skilled, actually they're able to smooth things over a lot more readily. And some of my crew colleagues that Sean really, kind of sees, again, they're not these close friends, but they're people who make him feel good about himself. And the support workers that we're trying to kind of hold on to. And I guess because we recruit on kind of shared interests and values, there's lots of opportunities to maintain relationships. So Courtney here is involved with Rotaract, and often Sean will go along to and support her in her fundraising endeavours. Lauren at the top was actually a member of the church, so she was actually a youth group leader when Sean was much younger. Claire's an artist, and Sean will go along to her kind of art openings, etc. That little baby is obviously the child of a support worker rather than a support worker themselves. And then there are the people, our neighbours, people who have known Sean his whole life, who, will invite him to the soccer or invite him to, a music gig or other things like that. So there's a lot of people in Sean's life, a lot of people who love him. And so now I'm going to kind of move to talk about, I wanted to sort of paint the picture and then talk about kind of how we chipped away at kind of creating this life for him.